electronic devices, and please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Kelly, can you do roll call?
Yes. Emma? Ellie? Jeannie? Ellers?
Here.
Sutton? Joey?
Okay, great. And also I'd like to just make that in attendance today, we have the mayor and the deputy mayor from the village of Harriman. And we also have Monroe trustee, Mary Bingham. We have village of Woodbury trustee,
Town Woodbury.
councilman,
Brandon Glover.
Brandon Calor, and also the Valley executive from the Palm Tree, and also trustee John Carl from the village of Monroe. All right. And with that, we have, first up, we'll have Mary Beth Bianconi from Delaware Engineering, Bob Gray, Deputy Commissioner, Department of Public Works, and also Eric Benenga, the Commissioner of Public Works. First up, we have item number 1A, design phase update for the Harriman wastewater treatment plant. Mary Beth?
See how far they get? Thank you.
Thank you.
You got one here.
I can make more copies. Need 15. Good afternoon, everybody. As the chairman said, my name is Mary Beth Bianconi. I'm partnered with Delaware Engineering, and we've been working with the county on the design of the upgrade and improvements to the Harriman wastewater treatment plant for quite some time now. This is our technical update for the month of July. Our format is as it has been for some time now. We'll review the work conducted since the last sewer committee meeting, talk about regulatory status and then financing. So work conducted since our last meeting. Our technical and design workshop meeting was actually the day after the committee meeting last month. We continue working on design. We have 60% design due date of September 30th, and we're well on the way towards that. We've had an ongoing discussion regarding sludge handling and disposal. We have narrowed into two choices with respect to that. The concept that was originally in the facility plan was a single level garage with a conveyor to load an end dump trailer directly from the presses that are on the site. So if we think about this, right, we have water with stuff in it that arrives at the wastewater treatment plant. The job of the treatment plant is to separate the water from the stuff. We discharge clean water to the river, and then we have to do something with the stuff. The stuff is lovingly called sludge. We use presses on this site. We thicken the sludge, and then we use presses to remove as much water from it as we possibly can. We make a product called cake. I know, we'll start laughing now. That is, looks kind of like earth, and that we landfill. The more efficient we can be in this process, the better it is from a financial perspective as well as from an environmental perspective. So sludge handling and disposal becomes an important topic. Our second option is to construct a sludge hopper in a 2-story building where we would still have in the main floor that end dump trailer, but the second level would have what's called a live bottom hopper with a large capacity that would allow sludge to be distributed among multiple dump trailers. That conversation is ongoing with the technical staff. We may design multiple options and include them in the bids so that we have choices with respect to cost. Grit and grease removal options, same discussion. We reviewed, I think, 7 or 8 different potential technologies. We ended up with 2 that are the most valuable options. I listed them there. If anybody can't sleep tonight and you Google these companies, they have great videos that show you how their technologies work. And we continue again to work our way through those options. One side note on all of these things, we don't design around a supplier, because when we do that, then that supplier can kind of write a check for whatever amount they want. We design with flexibility so that when the general contractors are putting together bid documents, they can pick the technology that works, but we do develop performance standards so that you know you're getting a good quality product. Scum is a portion of the treatment process that we have to address. If you think about it, we have really large tanks full of wastewater. Scum is exactly what it sounds like. It floats to the surface, and we have to have a way of addressing that. And so there was a discussion about using floating scum skimmers in what we call the pre-react zone, which is the zone at the very front of the treatment tanks. It's usually the most effective way to handle this, and a lot of the conversation there was with the operators because it's a manual process. And then we had the very first portion of our discussion about the control systems for this project. That will be an ongoing and fairly detailed discussion. So there'll be more to report on that later. And then a topic that we've talked about a number of times here is that secondary access. Folks will recall, we are trying to get a secondary access off the main road to reduce the amount of truck traffic on Evergreen and River. DOT is reviewing the documents that we previously submitted, and Orange County is working on the application to purchase supplemental property. So that is also moving along.
Right, is that surplus property?
It's this, it would be
Is that-
DOT
Access area?
DOT would declare it in surplus. They don't need it. So they would declare it in surplus. So the application that we file is an application for surplus property.
And I'm hoping to set up a meeting with the deputy, Region 8. Deputy Director,
Regional director,
Regional
yeah.
director.
Yeah.
Hopefully in the next several weeks or so. We just want to impress them on the importance of the project and the schedule, which I think we're approaching them in a good time. Not,
Yes.
we're still a good year out when we need
Plenty of
answers, but things can take a long time, so we press upon them.
And that was Stephanie on the call. Was it within the last month? I know you guys had a DEC call, or she was supposed to be.
We're going to talk about the DEC.
Okay.
So the next page. One step ahead of me. Subconsultants. So the survey was completed actually November of last year. County has copies. We've been using it for the design. The asbestos and lead survey was conducted by Ambient Environmental. All of that work is complete. When we were here in June, they still had to do roof work. That's all done, and we are just expecting a report any day now. Folks will recall that survey is required because we are going to do some building modifications and demolition. We need to characterize the presence of lead and asbestos for bid documents. Geotechnical agreement's been executed with Labella, and their site work is scheduled to begin in mid-August. It will probably take them about 2 weeks.
What kind of site that, what they?
So they're gonna do a number of different things when they are on site. They are doing some deep bores so that we know what the geologic conditions are underneath the ground where we're gonna be building. They're gonna do some shallow work so that we can evaluate things like percolation rates, and we can, because a big, 2 really big things that are gonna come up from a geotechnical perspective, in addition to things like foundation design, which is sort of a normal thing, are gonna be shoring for existing tank walls, because we're building brand new, very, very, very large tanks adjacent to existing tanks. So we need to make sure, and right now, if you think about our tanks on site are partially above the ground, partially submerged. The ground where they're submerged, the ground is actually providing shoring, right? It's holding them up. When we excavate right next to that, we're gonna start pulling that away. So we have to temporarily shore those tanks to make sure that we don't mess with the integrity of any existing tank walls. So a big part of this will be the geotechnical analysis and design will be the shoring system for existing structures on site. And then that will also include instructions that will go in the bid documents regarding what protective measures are required during that construction. And then the couple of other pieces of this, we will have to do stormwater management. So current stormwater practices are for infiltration. We'll be evaluating soils for infiltration capacity, which is sort of a normal thing on all construction sites. And then the last part of this is back to our building very, very, very large tanks. We will need to do dewatering. If you've ever driven by a construction site and you see, an excavation, there's probably groundwater in that excavation. We'll need to remove that water on a continuous basis so that construction can proceed. So we have a pretty fancy dewatering plan and evaluating the quantity, quality of groundwater, how much we believe we're going to have, when are we going to encounter it, all goes into creating that dewatering plan, which we have to send to the DEC for approval. So the geotech stuff.
And when they pour down to check that, will they actually do some drilling or do they do it with imaging? Or?
No, they do it with an actual drill. Yep, there's tailings that come out, pile of dirt. And they will analyze that. They do some stuff on site, but they also send soils to a lab to be evaluated as well. So,
Thanks.
yeah, and that work's gonna take about 2 weeks. And then we would expect we'll have the on-site observations immediately, and then we get the report about a month later. DEC. Regulatory status. All of the things listed on the front page are pretty much things that you've already seen before. Folks will recall we have multiple applications pending before DEC, but two we'll talk about in detail in a minute. We submitted an application for the 9 million gallon a day speedies back in March. We received a notice of incomplete application, which again we anticipated. It was not a technical review. We were requesting technical reviews so we could obtain design limits for the plant. And then NOI A3, which is the variance, that's for the current 6 MGD speedies. And there's a little bit of that regulatory history there. So if we flip to the next page, we had also, the last piece is just in the regular course of business. The county was required, they received an RFI to submit some documentation regarding the existing speedies permit. That was conducted in 2023, would you believe, and that remains under DEC. So as the chairman pointed out, we did have a meeting with DEC. It was in person. It was in New Paltz, which is the DEC Region 3 office location here locally. In attendance for the county were myself, Brock Giusela, Tracy Letter. Also had Michael Zwart, Logan Graney. We had Anthony Griffin, Bob Gray, and Eric Hernandez. Thank you. I believe that's everybody. Bless you. For the DEC, we had a combination of DEC Region 3 personnel who included the regional water engineer, the deputy regional director. We had regional permits, and then on a virtual call, we had folks from DEC's main office in the permit writing area. So we probably had, I don't know, maybe 15 people, 20 people. It was an extremely good meeting. It was an extremely good meeting. DEC had asked us to put together an agenda with our very specific requests, and they were very responsive to our requests. So with respect to notice of incomplete application, which is what NOIA stands for, number 3 for the 6 million gallon a day variance. This is the list of things we talked about. We talked about the total dissolved solids minimization plan that the county is currently implementing. We had a very long conversation about control strategies, and I think we are have a much better understanding of what DEC is looking for from us, because we were really struggling with that. We had a big discussion about risk to human health and the environment, which is a standard for variances. We discussed comparing the variance situation to needing something called WQBELS, which is Water Quality Based Effluent Limit and Standards. That's what that one stands for. We talked about wetlands, which there are wetlands on site, and we also talked about them in the context of variance from a water quality perspective and a toxicity perspective, and we talked about compliance with SEQR, which is the State Environmental Quality Review Act. The result of this conversation on NOI A3 was homework assignments. County walked away with, I think, 6 homework assignments and DEC walked away with 3. We are actually sent a note to everyone, because I'm a good school teacher and I remind people about their homework assignments. Reminding folks who were assigned tasks, and our goal is to share information at the end of next week and schedule a follow-up virtual meeting with the same group of people in early August. So we are moving along on that, and it's very positive.
Beth, do you have any kind of feeling at all, or is there any way to try to get a feeling about how close the DEC is getting towards ruling on that variance?
It's a great question. I would say, the substantive discussions that we had regarding these 6 topics, which were kind of the big topics, were, so our homework assignments were to, when we received our TDS minimization plan approval, we prepared the TDS minimization plan, our office, in conjunction with the engineering office here at the county. We spent a lot of time roundtabling a lot of control strategies here internally to evaluate, like 2 years ago, to evaluate their effectiveness. We spent a lot of time running, kind of chasing rabbit holes and doing a lot of things. What we documented in our work to DEC was the results of our efforts, but we didn't document that we did all of that work. We didn't document every control strategy we discussed and how we weighed and balanced it and how we determined its effectiveness or ineffectiveness or impracticality or practicality. So one of the big things that DEC is asking us for is they certainly approved our TDS minimization plan and they approved the work we're doing to implement it. To complete their record so that they can make a decision on the variance, they need to understand the process we used to get there. So that is actually my homework assignment, is to go back, because I have the records from all of that work, and put that together. So that was really important. Relative to risk of human health and the environment in comparison to WQBELS, that discussion led to a conversation about the need to engage with our friends at the Department of Health. We have done that here in Orange County and in Rockland County, but the DEC needs to conduct outreach to the State Department of Health. We all need to get kind of on the same page. And that was one of DEC's homework assignments, was to reach out to state DOH and find out who should be part of our meetings for these discussions so that we have some guidance from the Department of Health.
Do you think they'll be at the meeting in August?
That's the plan. That's the intent, right, is that they would be there. And then the other topics, we talked about wetlands. We've done a lot of water quality testing. We've shown that there's no toxicity with respect to wetlands or microbiota. So I think that's good. One thing that we did so a couple of other things, the homework assignments, the county is evaluating accelerating our schedule of activities that is in the TDS minimization plan. We were required to put together a schedule. We're evaluating if there are actions that it makes sense for us to either combine or accelerate to obtain more data to give to DC. So we're doing that. And then the last homework assignment that really came out of this was, and we're doing a little math. They wanted us to do a little bit more, update our math on our current discharges. So that process has started. And then another one of DEC's homework assignments was to look at the folks who've been here for a long time will remember we did a very, very extensive sampling of water quality here. We sampled over 850 individual samples from multiple constituents, and that got put together in a giant 1,300-page report. And one of DEC's homework assignments was to spend a little more time with that report. And really, there's a lot of data, but it's incredibly important data for them to understand. So that was another assignment. And then the last assignment was the only other variance of this nature in the state is the variance that exists for mercury. So folks will remember mercury came to us through acid rain because of industrialization in the Ohio River Valley. And so it's kind of here, it's depositional, it's an element, it exists in nature, but from a water quality perspective, it came from acid rain for us. And so the state conducted this exact analysis we're doing. We're doing it for trouble solids and chloride. The state did it for mercury back a number of years ago. So we're asked the state to go dig out their records from when they conducted that work so that we all have a better perspective on how the requirements for variance were considered in light of mercury, so that we have a kind of a touch point with respect to how we look at it for TDS and chloride. So that was the other thing. So I think to answer your question, I think we're getting much closer to providing the state with the type of information that is going to give them the ability to make a decision. It's just we've been trying to, get to that. So it was a very good and we met for an hour and 45 minutes, which was longer than our time slot. It was a very robust discussion. The other topic, which was brief but very helpful, was we had submitted that non-NGD speedies application as a step towards getting likely effluent limitations. And I know we've gone over it here in this meeting. Some of them we know them and we know them well. We know what the implications are relative to the construction project, the capital project, but there were a couple, particularly nutrients, we talked about this before, nitrogen and phosphorus, that we really wanted to have a good understanding from DEC as to what we could expect. We had a good discussion around that. We got our answers that allows us to continue to move forward with design. And that was really what we wanted. So that was very helpful. And then, as I mentioned, we are right now in the process of developing our documentation in response to Notice of Incomplete Application 3 for the variance, and we intend to schedule a virtual meeting for early August with DEC and hopefully with DOH partners as well to do a follow-up. So that's where we are regulatory. That's a lot of advancement on the regulatory front, all in a very short period of time. So we're really happy with that. And then our last topic, as is traditional, is financing. So folks will remember, kind of have three main sources of potential financing for this project. They're listed here, four main sources. Clean Water State Revolving Fund and Bipartisan Infrastructure Law are kind of a package deal. And then the other two are the Water Quality Improvement Program and the Water Infrastructure Improvement Act. So we submitted an in-progress application in May, remember, for the Clean Water State Revolving Fund and the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, and we've been coordinating with EFC since then. Folks know, I believe, and it's on our agenda today, that there is a hearing tomorrow to continue to advance this process, and I've written on page 2 at the bottom kind of our schedule moving forward. We are driving towards that WIA application deadline of September 12th. And also having a complete financing application at the same time. They coincide. And then Water Quality Improvement Program, the application is due July 31st. We have prepared a draft that has been reviewed a couple of times. The draft documentation is with county grants for their review, and there will be coordination between my internal grant writer and county grant writers to get that application submitted. Folks may remember that at the July meeting, Legislature, there was a resolution to authorize submitting that grant application. And relative to the hearing, tomorrow, what I've done is pretty straightforward. I simply, for some of you, you're going to be seeing something you've already seen. I simply took the slideshow from the prior hearing, and I updated it to make sure it was accurate, and I updated the date. In speaking with Chairman Tui, and I know we discussed whether we would do this presentation tomorrow at the hearing. I think where we ended up with this is we will be prepared to do this presentation if it seems like it's going to be helpful to anyone in the public or anyone who's participating in the hearing. On the other hand, if we don't feel that it's necessary, then we won't, but we have it prepared and ready to go. It is the same presentation you saw previously.
what would be the determining factors, whether you do or you don't?
So, we had, if folks will remember at the last hearing, we took really copious notes. We wrote down the participants, we wrote down their, questions. And we actually, through this committee, we prepared a response documentation that discussed, answers to those questions. If we have a similar participation, there is really nothing new to provide to the same people who were at the last hearing, then I think we're kind of expending folks' time, maybe without a lot of purpose. So that would be a reason maybe not to do a presentation, would be to just get to the comment if it's folks who are already informed about this project and have already heard it. On the other hand, if we have new people attend the hearing who are not as aware, then it would be appropriate, I think, to do a presentation.
Yeah, I think so, especially since it's only 3 pages.
It's intended to be pretty brief, and I do acknowledge the last time we were delayed about 10 minutes due to technical difficulties, so I will make sure I am here early and we don't have those technical problems.
I would think that maybe we should do it since it's
Okay.
so brief. Just anticipating that there could be other people who
Sure.
want the second bite of the apple there and the first time was at the beginning on the live stream, so.
We can absolutely do that. Not a problem at all. Absolutely. And I think it's everything I have.
Just that Mary Beth mentioned the public hearing, but just from the legislative process standpoint, and I spoke with Jean today that we have a legislative request circulating now to be a resolution saying that the proposed increase in improvements are in the public interest. That's going to be coming for fiscal services on Monday. Tomorrow, Bob and I will be in front of the Rules Committee. A request to amend local law number 4 of 2008, which is sewer use law, to modify the benefit formula used to determine the assessment levied upon each benefit level parcel. All part of the procedure, but those are the upcoming.
And you'll be using these.
Yeah, that one is just part, it's just saying, how do we calculate? We're not necessarily getting to the numbers. It's just like, this is the formula,
Method, yeah.
the method. Yeah.
Yeah, and just so right now the county has a schedule that it uses based on land use to assess a portion of the costs. The change is simply to say that that schedule is going to be used to assess all of the costs.
Okay.
So,
And I noticed that we have some people that are here today that spoke at the last hearing. So I just want to let everyone know that those comments, everything that was said or mailed in from the first hearing will carry over, and that will be in the minutes for this rehearing to get us back on track.
That's correct.
So that if you did speak before, those will be included as well.
that's correct. There isn't a need to say the same thing again. It's all part of the record. It's all part of the record.
Good. Michael? Anybody? Anything else, Chairman?
I just think that if there's any municipal leaders here that have questions now, you might be in the best case to answer it, because sometimes at the public hearing, we hear your comments, but we don't necessarily respond. So if you have questions now, either from yourselves or your constituents, I think maybe now would be an opportunity to do it, rather than during the public hearing where we don't usually go into a back and forth. We just listen to your comments and make them a part of the record. So if there's any concerns or comments, I know I would like to hear about it ahead of time.
Sounds, thanks. Di?
The notice for the public hearing for tomorrow, the last bullet says the cost of the typical property, single family home within Orange County Sewer District, without grant funding, is $1,063.26 annually. I remember having this discussion before the last public hearing. This is the total per household. This includes 500 plus that you're already charging.
Correct.
This notice makes it seem as if there's going to be an additional $1,000 instead of a total of $1,000, especially when you have maybe reduced by grants to $876. That is an increase of only about $300 per family. It's not a total $876.
Correct.
At the
So
top
that-
of page 3 clarifies that.
Yes.
Great.
Yeah, I think they're definitely maybe tomorrow during the presentation,
We'll make sure.
just emphasize that, that's all.
Yeah, and the section 268 of the county law is really specific about what you have to put in the hearing notice. So the language came from there and, they use this term increase or improvement, what makes it, to your point, makes it sound like that's the increase. But then it says, what's the total cost? It's the total cost. It's not an increase, it's the total cost.
Another issue that people may ask, and I'm not clear for it as well. What was the defect in the last public hearing that the county needs another one?
So for the last public hearing, the county used its standard hearing notice. Section 268 of the county law requires that information that you were just reading, which says the total project cost, whether there are zones of assessment, and what's the cost to the typical user, has to be in the hearing notice. The last time the county used its standard hearing notice, which is sufficient for probably 99% of what is done here at the county, but did not have that critical information. And so we know this application is pending before the Office of the State Comptroller, who is reviewing this proceeding that we are doing to make sure that we have followed county law. And so we know that we needed to document that we had had a hearing and that the notice was proper and sufficient. So while the prior notice was the same notice that the county uses for all hearings, which is adequate for all public hearings in general, and was timely, the hearing was conducted properly and all of those things, it's simply that the notice itself failed to include those key pieces of information. And if we think about it, that makes sense to me because the public could see a hearing notice without that information and just say, oh, this isn't important to me. But if they see that those key pieces of information, they may say, this is important to me and I need to participate. So that's the reason.
My final question, you talked earlier about a DOT permit. Is that, it's for the secondary access
Correct.
to the project? Is that a component that the DOT does not give it, then the project falls apart, or it's only an extra?
It would be really ideal to have it. It's a really wise thing to do. But obviously the treatment plant's been sitting there functioning since the 1970s without it. It can continue to function without it, but for a variety of reasons, right now we don't, it's kind of interesting, right? We consider the front of the plant the River Road side and the back of the plant the Route 17 side or the main road side. The back of the plant has no separate access. So everything that has to ever get back there has to go through the main plant. So it all has to go evergreen to river. From a construction perspective, it would be very nice to have access to the back. But also from an operational perspective, and particularly for our friends here from Harriman, it will reduce truck traffic on those local roads. And that's another reason. If for some reason DOT were to choose not to do this access, we can work with it, just like they have for all the other projects. But we have no indication from DEC that they will not work with us. In fact, they think that the request is very reasonable, so. But it's a good question.
The only comment that a lot easier when it comes to giving easement rights than to transfer title. So they may fall back on easement right.
Which is perfectly, because we really left it up to them. We have, different DOT regions sort of treat access land differently. Sometimes they want to unburden themselves of it. It's a maintenance issue and a whole bunch of other things. And other times they're, to your point, they just want to do an easement. So I think the county's flexible. We can go either way.
Thank you.
There was two parts to that. One is the access off of 17, and one is having a little bit more property along 17 fit for future equipment. To get more space around it, because it takes a little more space in it.
As far as the village of Harriman is concerned, again, tomorrow on the record, I just want to again ask for some consideration. I know we've had some minor discussions about it. Since this project will directly impact the residents of Harriman more than anyone else, I just feel like we should receive some sort of consideration. I don't know how that could come about, but that's something that I'll ask for tomorrow.
And we have, I know if the county attorney's office was represented here, they would say that we have to, in terms of the rates, we have to be equitable to everyone who is similarly benefited. So we don't, and that's state law. So we don't have flexibility in that respect. But I do think, and Mayor, you and I talked about this, we are trying very hard to be as cooperative as we can with respect to the impacts that you are the host community. You have to do suffer the impacts of this project. So as much as we can, certainly before, during, and after construction, to try to mitigate as many of those impacts as we possibly can.
Yes, Councilwoman Bingham.
Yes, and he spoke about dewatering. I'm not sure what process you're using, and I'm not sure if there are any wells in that area, but would there be any chance of an impact on wells that might be in the area?
So that's one of the things that we actually have to evaluate, right? So we've identified any wells within the area. We're looking at geology, we're looking at the processes that we'll use, and we'll design so that we don't have any impacts. If we have to do any monitoring, we'll be reaching out to people who own those wells and asking to do monitoring during that process. But dewatering is not, so like if you think about like a residential well, where there's a pump in it that's intended to draw groundwater out for your use and then it goes back. Dewatering is simply removing the water that flows naturally is groundwater into a hole that you have created. So we're not actually drawing additional water out. We would just be moving the water that's going there naturally. We're not creating a suction, just moving the water that goes there naturally to clear the excavation area so that workers and equipment can safely do the excavation.
One other thing, we had the Village of Monroe Park opening. There was hydrogen sulfide. It occurred between 10 and 11 o'clock. I would ask again that the county look into that. I don't know if there's a peak flow time that's occurring, but it was noticed by all of us. Yesterday.
Last night around 9 o'clock, I came out down Orange and Rockland Road, coming back in Monroe, it was horrendous. Right, Orange and Rockland Road, right up 208, right down to the diner. It just, it's disgusting.
Yeah, it's funny how it comes and goes, because when I was down at the grand opening from
It's when the pump cycle.
at 10 o'clock, I didn't smell anything. So it does definitely come and go. When I was speaking to you, Mayor, I didn't catch it, otherwise it would become a topic of conversation among us. The thing is, the bottom line is that we found a solution to remedy this. And our neighbors, it's their responsibility, and they had agreed to do this. They did a bond resolution to purchase the oxygenation equipment. And then certain actions happened on their part. And next thing you know, they dropped it, and they said, no, until this other thing is resolved, we won't do it. And if this other issue gets resolved, they said they'll go out and order a new system that day. So there's not much we can do as the county. You know, it's, we can't speak on other municipalities' behalf or what their intentions are. So it's very demanding because it comes and goes. And now you're telling me that after I left, that it was getting smelly. And was that up on the trail or in the park?
It was
In the
posted
park,
to
it's
the
stunk. We were
park.
sitting there holding a ribbon, you could smell it.
I didn't smell it, John. I was standing right next to you.
We're not making the stuff up.
No, I know, but I'm not lying either and saying that I didn't smell anything.
It's horrible.
So you know, I'm standing there right next to you. You smelled it, I didn't. And also with the ambient smell, we have a new meter on order. Bob, maybe you can tell us how is that close to being delivered to take ambient odors outside? And we can take it into the park, into the new park when we get it and test levels in there too.
And still
Other
being
than that,
procured, it's.
John, this is going back to days you were mayor.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And I went round and round with Peter Hammond.
Oh,
He
great.
was another gem.
Another gem. What do you mean? What does that mean?
He was a gem.
Oh, I thought you said he was another gem.
Well, he was another gem. I mean, there was a few of them, but he was the
Compared
worst.
to who?
Gosh.
Never mind. I redact that question.
But the issues that Mary brought up, I mean, it's persistent. And sealing manholes and putting filters, well, we're just kicking the can down the road here. We're just pushing the problem further and further down. And back,
You're a village councilman. Have you reached out to your neighboring town to see why they're not putting in the system that would alleviate it?
no,
We
because
tested it for a full week.
I get the information from you.
Yeah,
Because they want to build a road through a county park to come out onto Seven Springs. That's got nothing to do with me.
yeah, and it has nothing to do with a oxygenation system for their pump station. Yet, I said we can't speak to their motives or intents.
I understand it. With Harriman being the host to the sewer treatment plant, look what we're being the host to in the village of Monroe.
But I want to make one.
A drop manhole where between Chester and Blooming Grove, flowing in, dumping into the drop manhole, aerating out, gassing out hydrogen sulfide. That's what we're getting at.
I'm not an
I got
attorney.
told 20 years ago, I didn't know what I was talking about, but now all of a sudden, everybody's talking about hydrogen sulfide. I was
Years
talking about
ago,
that 20 years
20
ago.
years ago, you were mayor, why didn't you get an oxygenation system back then? You know what, I'm gonna get off this topic right now.
But I just make one more comment. That park is ADA compliant for children.
Yeah.
Children are more sensitive than adults.
Mhm.
You know, they're smaller, they can tolerate less. So I just want to piggyback on John, that this is an important issue, and I just hope the county
I don't,
can look
I
into
agree with you
it
110%, it's a very
when
important
the
issue.
monitor comes in, that more readings be taken. That's the only point I want to make. Thank you.
Well, I'm gonna say one last thing, we're gonna give Bob a great chance to say it. I'm not an attorney. You municipal leaders, you have attorneys. I don't know, maybe there's some type of legal action for causing damage in the community. That as a municipality you could take, you know, I don't know. I'm not a lawyer, but I would check with your own attorneys.
People may just say something additional. Back in the late 90s, 98, 99, somewhere near 2000, the county hired a company called the New England Pipe Company that came in and relined that sewer main along Mill Pond Parkway. Because the main was being eaten apart from the inside out back then. And it wasn't gassing out as bad as it is now. It has gotten progressively worse. The more flow coming in, the more stagnant, it's turning septic. As those pumps are coming on and pushing that stuff up, it's all the air and gases ahead of it. And when it hits that drop manhole,
No, it damages.
the more and more users that get connected to it, the worse it's getting. And it's evident. It's evident.
Bob, did you
Yeah, I
want to?
just want to say, we do, I know Gedalia has something to say as well. We do continuous reading in those manuals. I want to just correlate the time. What time was it exactly? It was yesterday afternoon? Yesterday?
No.
No, it's
Yesterday morning.
well, the first at the park ceremony, that started at 10 a.m. And
Okay.
I noticed it right as I got there.
So in the morning, late
Yes.
in the morning?
Yes.
Okay.
And then last night, I'm coming back into town from the fire chief's meeting, and that was around 9 o'clock.
That's
And
right.
it was on Orange and Rockland Road, and as soon as you hit it, it's the smell, you know?
Yeah, I'm
all
not
the
saying
smell.
there's anything I can do about it now, but I can look at what the readings were in the manhole and correlate that to, you know, was it any different than it was other ones?
And we get those, we get those readings every week. Are you on that list, John?
I'm not, but the mayor sends it to me.
And we do what we
Oh, so
do.
you do get it every week?
Yeah, Neil Dwyer sends it to me.
Okay, and, Mary, do you get it? You should get it because you're on the mood. Are you still on the mood, or?
Oh, no, I've never seen it through Luna, unless Brian.
Bob, can we make sure that
No,
the
just wrote it down.
members get it?
Yep, just wrote it down.
Thank you.
Just have it?
No.
No,
Good.
I know you spoke briefly to the risk of human health and the environment. When will we have like those results? Because it is important to us in Harriman, even to myself, who suffers back from asthma. During the process of this building the new plant, how it's going to affect everyone.
So we're mixing and matching a little bit, right? So the human health and the environment is an assessment that goes with this, with the water quality. So that information, we discuss it here, it's available, the toxicity testing is publicly available, it's non-toxic, we can send you all of that. So the water quality side of things, no issue. The conversation that's going on now, I know I was in a meeting not that long ago, and Bob had some charts that showed hydrogen sulfide and the amounts you need to have for it to be impactful, is a different discussion, right? So.
But you're referring specifically. to
Because
the
I know
plant.
when we're gonna start, you said when we're starting to do the plant, that the odors are gonna be horrific. And we need to know how that's gonna affect our residents.
So then, I don't know that we said that, but what we did say is that when we're so right now at the plant, when it smells really bad, right, is when the garage doors are open in the press building, right? Which is not all the time, it's sometimes, right? When sludge is being moved, hauled, or when the garage doors are open in the headworks, right? That's where it really, really smells. With respect to the headworks, when you went on the plant tour, remember we talked about how we're gonna build the new headworks adjacent to the old headworks?
Correct.
The new headworks is gonna have negative pressure, so there's gonna be filters on it. So when we switch that over, there isn't gonna be a time when that influent water is gonna be exposed to the air, it's gonna be all inside the building in the piping. So there will not be, if anything, that's gonna go from whatever the smell is to no smell when that happens. When we work on the sludge portion of the project, that's when there's a chance that there will be odors. It won't be continuous, we'll be able to notify people in advance, we'll do as best as we can. But I would also be lying to you if I told you that the sewer plant's gonna smell like a flower shop, it's just not, right? So, so this is the old, there's gonna be a little bit of pain to have a lot of gain. But that's, probably at least a year and a half to 2 years in the future from today. So we got some time, right? But we'll do the best we can. But when we are gonna be exposing some of that, you necessarily don't have a choice to expose some of that to the environment, but we're gonna reduce it as much as possible and do as much community coordination as we can. For instance, like we did we did a sewer project up in the city of Hudson. And I don't know if folks have been up there for their Flag Day parade, but in June, they had like one of the largest Flag Day parades in the country. And one of their things was no stinky, icky odors during the Flag Day celebration. Because they have the Flag Day celebration adjacent to the Virginia plant. So we went to the contractor, it was written in the contract, Flag Day is June 14th, no smelling odors, period. Whatever you gotta do, you gotta shut down and take everybody off the site, that's what you're gonna do. They did it. So it's the same kind of thing. If we have a lot of coordination here, if you guys have park opening, for instance, if that, that's happening, let us know. And we will coordinate to make sure that we can't stop construction per se, but we can say, hey, there's a day and there's a time when we need to be really sensitive to this community and make sure that this is not the day that you decided to, take the roof off the building, right? It could be the next day that you take the roof off the building. So those are the kinds of things that I think we can practically work on.
Gedalia had something to say.
Oh.
Just a comment on the issue. I know that we have the circus holiday when everybody sits outdoor. And I made it my routine to contact the county because of the people living next to the sewer plant, making sure that you're aware that there's gonna be open sheds and open circus people are gonna be using. And there is, since we had this notification process, we didn't have any issues, any complaints. So maybe there is the most simple solution sometimes could be resolving the issue. I know that, for example, we had a manhole that gave us a hard time. We built a simple shed on top of it with one outlet. There is an air filter right on top of that. Everything that leaves the shed goes through the air filter and it's being processed. It's cheap, zero cost almost to it. It's a simple wooden shed with insulated walls and a simple air filter where it's coming out. So maybe instead of leaving an open manhole in the road, a simple decorative shed around it with one area for the owner to escape, and it's processed beforehand. Just throwing out an idea for the county. Generally speaking, I do want to say, and it's not related to Woolly Grove or others, but it comes back to the relationship between the sewer district and the moving communities. We have issues with that as well. We believe that there needs to be some sort of enforcement mechanism generally over the moving communities if they violate their obligations. I refer to some of the moving communities that are overusing the capacity, which is cutting into capacity that's owned by the district. But the same is also with quality. There has to be some sort of enforcement mechanism by the legal department representing the district over issues that the moving communities may do wrong impacting the district. General statement, I don't know the details of this case, but I do know that there are moving communities that are taking advantage of the lack of enforcement and using more capacity and doing things that they shouldn't, just because they know the county isn't going to come down hard on them.
All right, I'm gonna wrap this up now. But just along those lines, the county is in talks with MUDNA, where they're speaking to them about certain issues. And, you know, this will all be addressed also when, as we do new intermunicipal agreements with the MUDNA communities. We're gonna have more capacity, so we're gonna have to redo some intermunicipal agreements. And, you know, I hope that they can live up to what their responsibilities are, and I hope they are. I can't speak to whether they are or they aren't, but I do know the county and Mr. Gray have been talking to Brian Smith and
Ryan, Joel and Isaac down in South Windsor.
yeah.
All right, just to get back on the expansion. A couple of things. One was I saw some numbers on proposed additional units out of the Village of Curious Joel, which was somewhere in the neighborhood of 4,900 that was being proposed into the future. So if you use the county's 400 gallon per day per unit, that's 2 million gallons right there.
350 now.
It's 350, so it's just gonna be under 2. So, you know, I know we can add trains as we go along with this. But the concern is, you know, if we're gonna build this, build it.
We can only build it at a certain pace to keep the rest of it online. So we're basically building it, the most we can do in phase 1 at this point, and then eventually do it.
But here's my next thought, and I know I had spoken to Mary Beth about this a while back. It's just in a property. It's a brownfield, whatever you want to call it. There's areas of that property that are away from where they did all the production stuff. If you look at the aerial shot of this picture here, and I'm very, very familiar with this whole area down there. It's like a hunk of Swiss cheese. Got a lot of deep holes. You got tunnels that go from one building to another. And I'm just hearing today about the shoring situation that is probably going to be needed because of these deep ditches and whatnot. You know, the thought of leaving this plant running, building a whole new facility on the backside of the Napara, build it at 12 million gallons, get the developers involved that are looking to build 5,000 units or whatever, get them all involved, make a partnership out of it. And then if this goes this way, build
All
it.
right, I'm just gonna answer one question towards this, and Mary Beth, we looked into it, and the cost is so
It
prohibitive
is
because it's a
Time.
federal
cost, and
toxic.
DEC
No.
does not support reuse of the Napara site for the waste treatment plant. They do not.
And
And
this
it
was
was looked at.
studied in the secret process.
Yes.
There's areas of that property that
And, you know, I
are a
agree.
lot better than other areas.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think you're right,
You
but.
know, we've opened up the discussion to a lot of different things, so I'm gonna reel it back into what to end this meeting. Thank everybody for their contributions. One last thing I have is just a reminder. Wednesday, July 23rd, 2025 at 2:30. Public hearing to receive public comment on the proposed increase and improvements to the Harriman wastewater treatment plant. And again, that'll be live streamed, right, Kelly? Okay, and then after the live stream, that goes on to the YouTube channel. Okay. All right, thank you, everybody, I appreciate it, and,
Thank you.
have a great rest of the day.